All right, today we are going to tackle a big one, CMMC. That's the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. Now, if your business works with the U.S. Department of Defense, or you even hope to one day, this isn't just some alphabet soup of jargon. Nope, it's basically the key to the front door. So let's dive in. This really is the question it all boils down to. Because if you're a link in the DoD's huge supply chain, CMMC is your new reality. It's the framework that's been designed specifically to protect all that sensitive government information that's flowing through the chain every single day. So let's start with the first type of data you gotta know about. FCI, or Federal Contract Information. Think of this as the foundational level. It's any information that's generated for a government contract that, isn't supposed to be released to the public. And even for this baseline data, the DoD requires a certain standard of protection. Okay, next up, we've got CUI, which stands for Controlled Unclassified Information. Now, this is a step up. Think of this as information that needs a big protective wall built around it. While it's not officially classified, it's definitely sensitive enough that there are specific laws and policies demanding it be safeguarded. So if you handle CUI, the cybersecurity bar is set much, much higher for you. So here's our game plan for breaking this all down. First, we'll get into why CMMC even exists in the first place. Then, we're going to dive into the different levels, get our hands dirty with the basics of Level 1, walk through the formal Level 2 process, and finally, look at what it takes to get that all-important certification. All right, first things first. Why does CMMC even exist? To really get the how, you've got to start with the why. And it all comes down to one absolutely critical mission: protecting the DoD's global supply chain from cyber threats. And make no mistake, this isn't some optional program or a set of nice suggestions. It is an official program overseen directly by the DoD's own Chief Information Officer. This is the government's #1 strategy for making sure that the FCI and CUI we just talked about is protected no matter which one of its thousands of partners has it. So who's on the hook for all this? Well, it's pretty much anyone who's part of what's known as the Defense Industrial Base, or the DIBE. And that's not just a few companies. It is a massive, sprawling web of hundreds of thousands of organizations. Everything from giant aerospace firms all the way down to small family-owned machine shops. If you're in that network, CMMC is for you. Now, CMMC is not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It actually uses different levels to match the security you need with how sensitive the information is that you're handling. Let's see how that works. And here it is, the fundamental difference between the levels. For Level 1, which covers that basic FCI, you're just required to do an annual self-assessment. But the moment you start handling the more sensitive CUI, you jump up to Level 2. And that means you need a formal, independent assessment by an outside party every 3 years. It's simple. The higher the stakes of the data, the tougher the verification process. Okay, let's start with the foundation. Level 1 is all about what they call basic cyber hygiene. It's the absolute minimum standard for anyone who handles federal contract information. And Level 1 is about way more than just having good passwords. It covers all the fundamentals of security. We're talking about physical controls, literally locking the door to the server room, media protection, like what do you do with a simple USB drive, and basic network security, like having a firewall. These are the absolute building blocks for being secure. So to make this super clear, here's a question taken directly from the Level 1 self-assessment. It asks, do you limit physical access to authorized individuals? See? It's pretty straightforward, but it really gets to the heart of what Level 1 is all about. It's just proving you have these essential, common-sense security practices in place and that you're actually following them. Okay, now for all the companies that handle that more sensitive CUI, we have to move into the more structured world of Level 2. This isn't a self-check anymore. This is a formal certification process that needs an outsider to come in and validate what you're doing. So who does this validation? Well, it's an accredited organization called a C3PAO. That's a mouthful. It stands for CMMC, Third Party Assessment Organization. The easiest way to think of them is like a licensed inspector for your cybersecurity. They are the independent, accredited auditors who will guide you through this whole journey and in the end, verify that you're compliant. So the Level 2 journey follows 4 very clear phases. You start off with a pre-assessment to get ready. Then comes the official assessment itself. After that, the results get reported, and finally, if everything goes well, your certificate is issued. It's a really methodical path from start to finish. Phase 1 is really all about preparation. In this phase, the C3PAO acts more like a guide than a strict auditor. They'll work with you, they'll review your key documents, like your system security plan, and they'll confirm the scope of the assessment, just to make sure everybody's on the same page before the real audit kicks off. Phase 2 is showtime. This is the official assessment, where the C3PAO team really digs in, and they'll use a few different methods to check that your security controls are working. They'll examine your written policies, they'll interview your staff to see if people are actually following the rules, and they'll even directly test your systems to make sure they're secure. So after all that preparation and all that assessment work, we finally get to the end goal, proving your organization meets the DoD's cybersecurity standard and getting certified. And this right here is the prize, a certificate of CMMC status. This isn't just a piece of paper you hang on the wall, okay? This is the key that unlocks your ability to bid on and win DoD contracts that involve sensitive information. It really is the ultimate symbol that you're trusted and ready to go. And this is super important. There are two possible outcomes here. A final certificate means you've aced the test, you've met every single requirement, you're good to go. But if there are just a few minor issues, you might get what's called a conditional certificate. This actually lets you keep working as long as you create a formal plan, called a POAM, to fix those gaps within a certain time frame. It just goes to show you the goal here is progress, not perfection right out of the gate. And that brings us right back to the final and most critical question. You know your business is ready to support the DoD's mission, but as CMMC becomes the rule and not the exception, the only question that's really going to matter is, are you certified?